let's get into the top 15 now. We got Rudy Gay, Chandler Parsons, Jay Crowder. We got our boy Ben Simmons, and we got Tobias Harris. That's from 11 to 15. Out of those guys, what are the guys that you either think is overrated, underrated, might be taking the big jump? We already talked a little about Ben Simmons, but what guys are you really focusing in on saying they're overrated, underrated?
Not an overrated thing, but he was a hard guy to really rank for me was Tobias Harris, because I was looking at the stats, and the one that jumped out to me was his points per game. And I want to say it was like 15, 16 points per game. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And I'm like, oh, he should be above Harrison Barnes because Harrison Barnes only had 11. But then I was thinking, wait a second. Harrison Barnes played a completely different role on that Warrior team than Tobias Harris played. So Harris, to me, it wasn't a should he be higher, should he be lower. It was just a where do I put this guy when I've got, for me, like guys like Danilo Gallinari, Harrison Barnes, Jay Crowder in that same kind of an area.
Yeah, Tobias Harris was significantly better, though, since he went over to Detroit. The first 49 games he played in Orlando, averaging around 13 points.
He was working with a better coach in
better coach, better supporting cast. You know, they didn't have 10 starters out there.
But he's still even he's still even upped his. Well, now they have 10 starters. Now they
gotcha
after he left.
Orlando.
But yeah, no. In Orlando, he's only shooting around 31% for three. Now he's up to like 37, where he was previous years.
37 for shooting percentages. You're in the green. You're
91 from free throw line too.
Exactly.
91% from the free throw line.
He absolutely hit his stride with Detroit late in the season. And I think that was honestly, I didn't expect him to be that good coming into Detroit. I was like, oh yeah, he's good. He'll fill in pretty okay, but it's not gonna change their team much. No. This offense changed. The way they play as a team has changed because of Tobias Harris being there. And I'm high on him. I think he's got. I don't want to cap him because right behind him is Stanley Johnson, who's a fucking beast.
Yeah.
The Stanimal.
The Stanimal back
there.
So it's like, am I excited for Tobias? Yes. He had a great year, and I hope he maintains that this year. That's my biggest concern is he may slide back.
But we might see a jump because he might be able to play those full games with Detroit. I mean, we saw him put up at least 16. So if he can average those 16 that he did with Detroit, have those same numbers, I mean, that offense is going to be fantastic. I think we all think that Pistons are a top 5 team in the East right now, and Tobias Harris is just adding on to that team. Now, I think the way he loses that starting position is if he gets injured and then Stanley comes in and impresses.
And that's another thing, just looking at this Piston team, though. If he does get injured, they're not at a huge fault to me because, they've got Stanley Johnson, but look at 2 guys they drafted this year in Jabinji and even, I know Ellison's a power forward, but you could, for some situations, whether
run a big lineup,
how you want to play that unicorn position to keep the theme of what you said, you could put Henry Ellison there.
Even the Morris they have. I mean, Morris isn't that big of a power forward, so I mean, you can run a fairly larger.
You could put Ellison at the 4, and then Marcus over at the 3.
You could run a fairly large offense there. But yeah, I think Tobias Harris actually might be taking a jump over. He might be able to take a jump because. Well, not even Danilo. Danilo might fall off shooting wise or point wise just because Moutier is going to grow as a player, and Jokic is going to grow as a player.
We hope.
It's Harrison Barnes is the big one for the jump because how is he going to play in Dallas?
Yeah, how is he going to be
having a bigger role than
guy
he did
or more
in
of
Dub
the guy?
Nation? Yeah,
because I mean, it's still Dirk's team at some points because Dirk still put up like 18 as a 38-year-old, but still now Harrison Barnes is now going to have to prove that he was worth an Olympic. A roster spot. He's going to have to prove that he was worth that money. And, technically, I think he's the guy that can either supplant his spot as a top 10 small forward, or he can.
Most to lose.
Yeah, I think he's got the most to lose. I think that's a perfect way to put it. Or he's going to completely fall off, and he's going to fall into a Rudy Gay or Trevor Ariza area where he's a specialty player and not a guy you can rely on. I think Harrison Barnes. If we're talking about guys that can move up or move down, Harrison Barnes is the guy that's going to make the biggest biggest flop, or he's going to actually prove himself.
Well, I mean, I look at their team, and it's like, of course, Dirty Dirk is going to be the guy you say is the
terrible nickname.
He's the number 1 guy for Dallas, but I'm looking at Darren Williams and Matthews, and neither of those 2 guys are guys that I'm confident going, yeah, that's my number 2.
They're a little long in the tooth.
It may have to be. Harrison Barnes is our number 2.
Oh, Harrison Barnes is the 2.
He's our number 2 guy, yeah.
I mean, well, if you look at Dallas, they've never had a guy who is the number 2. They've always had guys around Dirk.
And veterans.
Exactly. They have guys around Dirk. So Harrison Barnes is probably going to be, the guys around Dirk. But, if Dirk isn't able to step up, or Dirk is, Dirk's age finally catches up with him, or injuries happen.
Maybe he goes on a San Antonio schedule and only plays like 50 games.
Yeah, if Dirk's not able to keep up with it with an NBA season, not saying he can't, but if he's not able to, Harrison Barnes is that guy that's most likely going to be looked at and say, all right, kid, now it's your turn. And I think that's either going to completely make or break Harrison Barnes' not only career in Dallas, but just career in general, because he's 26, 25, around there. He needs to finally prove that he can be in the NBA as a starter.
Yeah, going from the 8th option on the best team in the league to now you're the number 2 option.
He's not hidden anymore.
Yeah. But, the weird thing is, I was looking through, like, different things on Reddit about, percentage of open threes, and it's weird because the Warriors had the highest percentage of made open threes, but below average as far as open threes given to them by percentage. So it's like, so their offense, well, it looked like, the passing the ball around the court, everybody was open. It wasn't really that way. Atlanta saw far more than they did, but couldn't turn that into points. So I think a lot of the argument against Harrison Barnes, outside of the playoff disaster, like dumpster fire, whatever you want to call that, was he only takes the easy shots. Well, no, it doesn't actually work like that. I mean, he may get some, but by far the Warriors were average as far as those potential chances. So,
well, and it comes with the system that they were running. Well, the way I kind of saw most of his shots, especially in the playoffs this past year, that he missed were open shots.
Well, that's because they didn't guard him.
Well, yeah.
He wasn't going to make it.
It was one of those things
go ahead,
where
take your chance. You're not going to make it.
It was just like by the time they passed it to him, they were obviously passing it to him because he was open, and you're going to take that kind of a shot over a contested one.
And that's one thing that it's like, all right, there was so much pressure on him in the finals because he was open. He was the guy that they needed to make a shot. And now if he's going to a place in Dallas where he might need to be that guy.
But think of the market. You're going from, over in Los Angeles, shit's going crazy over there, and you're living the life, to now you're in Dallas. No offense, but the media doesn't give a fuck about you.
Here's the
the Mavericks.
Right.
The media in Dallas is still big. Yeah,
they're big, but the Mavericks,
football.
I feel like are hidden in a shadow. The same way San Antonio has been one of the top teams for the last 2 decades combined.
When we talk about the Mavericks, who are we really talking about?
Mark Cuban. Mark goddamn
But
Cuban.
the one thing I want to bring up that kind of goes for what you said with the Mavericks. Most of the time, it's Dirk and just a collection of veterans behind him. If they go with that same kind of a mindset, that could actually help Harrison Barnes, because when we looked at the bench for the Warriors, what did we look at it as? Did we look at it as one guy, 2 guys? No, we looked at it as a collection, and he was a part of that collection. So maybe he can have the same mindset with, hey, I'm just a part of this collection behind Dirk.
So I feel if people are looking at this right now, I think the most overrated player, or the people that say we're completely crazy, I think that person might be Harrison Barnes. So basically what we're saying
Ben
is...
Simmons or Harrison Barnes.
Yeah. Well, basically what we're saying is Harrison Barnes, we know you're watching. Prove yourself, kid. We know, longtime fan, Harrison Barnes.
And this is all
along
for...
with Kyle Singler. They watch together.
And I got to say this is all for what we think they're going to do starting day one, not at the end of the season.
Well, these are their expectations.
And Harrison Barnes he's one of the guys that we mentioned at the beginning. The guy's changing to a different team where he's obviously going to have a new role than he did in Dub Nation.
Yeah. And meanwhile, he's filling in there for Chandler Parsons.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Chandler Parsons, and I know, right? I just pull it out of the
wavelengths.
But you got similar guys between Chandler Parsons, Jay Crowder, and Trev Ariza, who all fill a similar niche, but obviously Jay Crowder brings that extra defensive toughness. Chandler Parsons has a better shot, and Trev Ariza is kind of the mix of the two, I feel.
And that's why he's a little lower. Just because he's not one of those guys that you can rely on.
He doesn't overall exceed in one under the other, but he does them both well enough.
He's there.
Yeah.
Trevor Ariza is there. He's good at being there, but he's not going to be a guy where, all right, last second shot, we're going to give it to Trevor Ariza. You can do that with Parsons. You can do that with Parsons.
And the one thing about Parsons is he's going over to a Memphis team that
got paid.
He's going over to a Memphis team that has a lot better of a point guard than Dallas had.
Really? You don't say.
Mike Conley compared to Darren
almost
Williams.
all-star.
The Darren Conley. Williams that I only remember him as an Illinois Fighting Illini. I just forget his NBA
You don't remember him? He was good in Utah. And then he got paid because he was good in Utah and then sucked in Brooklyn.
It was okay. At this point, because of everything else,
if you're
I
an
only remember
Illini
his
fan,
college.
you should be boasting about his time in Utah. That guy was an all-star in Utah.
I'll take that last year in Illinois.
With
Mike Conley, never all-star.
With Parsons, real quick, I do want to say he's kind of in that area where, all right, get on the floor because he's never played a full season. He's been in that 60 to 70 range, and at times, last year he shot in 41% from three, so obviously he has that shot there. But then again, Chandler Parsons is a guy who didn't really fit in Houston, did not fit in Dallas. It's going to be tough with a guy who they don't have Yeager there anymore. You're going to have to corral in Parsons and be like, all right, you need to be here. You need to be in this a part of this team here. He's going to be the third option behind Conley and Gasol. Maybe even he'll probably be mixed with Zebo there too. But I mean, it's most likely going to be like, all right, Conley, Gasol pick and roll. Conley's going to dish it out to Parsons, and then maybe he'll give it down to Zebo. So that's why I'm thinking more third option.
Fair enough.
Parsons is going to need to step up, and he's going to need to be a guy that can score and put up around 15 or 16 like he did in Houston and the first year in Dallas. I think that's where he's going to need to be, and not in that 13 range where he was last year. I think he's
my
going to step
major
it up.
concern for him, like you said, is that fit on the team. And because I remember the good old days with Parsons and Jay Lynn together, like the bromance, like he rocked it, and I rocked on the Rockets. Sorry.
Good one.
He had a great time, and I think that really
He had a blast.
Fuck you. Look, you just destroyed that. But Sean, what I'm really trying to say here is it does matter about that fit on the team, and he did take a big contract. He's going to a new city, and I'm a little worried about the fit and the expectations and the pressure getting to him. I know Memphis, again, not a big city, but at the same time, it's everything around it, and then fitting into a team that notoriously has played through their bigs. That's how they've dominated. Not dominant. That's how they've gotten where they are now. They've
a team
been
that's been consistently in the playoffs.
Consistent playoff team and dominating through the bigs. So it's like, look, you're going to see open looks like you said. You just have to take advantage of that, and he needs to be a lights-out shooter again.
We scratched the surface with the top 10 with talking about Harrison Barnes a little. Let's jump into it. Number 9, Danilo Gallinari. Number 8, Giannis. Number 7, Wiggins. Let's talk about those three right now before we get into the 6, because the 6 is where we were those guys. We all had them in that range, but it was more of guys that should be in that range. Where a guy like Wiggins, a young player, rookie of the year player, guys has lofty expectations as Timberwolves is an up and coming team.
Is Wiggins another one where it's kind of, yes, we can see how he's done in the NBA, but is his also a little bit
potential?
It's a little bit of potential because of Thibodeau coming in this year.
I think he's still
set to succeed.
23, 22.
Yeah. He has 2 complete years in the NBA. He had like you said, rookie of the year the first year, and then he improved his second year, which again, not always a given for these guys. So I see continued growth. He, like you said, Tom Thibodeau comes in. You have a great mentor of a head coach who's going to run your knees off, but at the same time, you're going to be a better player for it at the end of the day. So, look, just Wiggins is way up there in potential. Like him and Kat are just through the roof with potential because of that system.
And that's the thing. You bring in Tom Thibodeau, so that's going to be more expectations there. You're a former rookie of the year. You stepped it up the year after that. You have Kat, who's now in his second year, who's going to be more fit into that system. Levine's grown. You're still going to be able to see, all right, the pieces are there. The pieces are growing. You need to grow as well. Yeah. You need to take that jump.
Don't forget the starting point guard and Chris Dunn.
Don't forget it's going to be Ricky Rubio.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Chris Dunn, baby.
Well, if people go back to our top 30 starting point guards, Ricky Rubio was there, not Chris Dunn. But yeah, no, Wiggins is a guy that he's going to need to step up, and I think he will be able to do that. And I think he'll still be in that 7 where we have him. I don't think he's going to be jumping into that Carmelo or Butler or Kawhi
He's got a couple
range.
of years to establish, but he is already growing to be one of the best scorers in the NBA.
He is, and I think the thing that he needs to do is take over either as a playmaker or develop that outside shot a little more and become dangerous from there. Because I think the player that if we're looking at, he's either going to be Carmelo in the Nuggets days where he's kind of like that player, or Paul George where he can be a complete all-around player.
And that's what I'm hoping for.
I don't think he's going to be a Kawhi where he's going to be a shutdown defender. He's not going to be a Jimmy where Jimmy is a very great all-around player,
you know what,
but
though?
Can't shoot.
Based on the coach coming in, if you were Wiggins, why would I know Paul George is like that's who you want him to be like, because that's like LeBron is kind of
the best player in the East, not named LeBron James.
Yeah.
KD is one of those players where it's like, yeah, we're going to put him.
You can't be LeBron or KD.
Yeah.
You can't.
And like Paul George, Dave, you said it before we started the podcast, was he's like your prototypical small forward.
He is.
He's the guy. But based on the system coming in with Tom Thibodeau, I'd look and I'd say, hey, if Wiggins developed and became the kind of player that Jimmy is, that would fit the system.
See, but I think he's more of a scorer than Jimmy. Yeah. I'm
not saying they're exactly the same, but like if he could do similar things for that team that Jimmy could do.
He's a huge step ahead of Jimmy. Look,
Yeah.
he came in rookie of the year. He was a high draft pick, first or second overall. He's up there.
He was first.
I'm just saying-
He
I'm
was,
just
he was
saying,
first and then traded to Timberwolves for K-Love.
Yeah, so worth it. So worth it.
I'm
Thank
not
you,
saying
Cavaliers.
I'm
We got
not
a
saying like
championship.
be the
Yeah,
exact
Caleb played
same.
defense on one play. It was great. That play mattered.
Don't bash KD.
I'm not saying be the exact
Caleb.
same thing.
I look good.
Of course, he's going to have a higher ceiling. I hope he's better than Jimmy Butler because of when he came in.
Right.
But it's just do the similar things in that system with Thibodeau coming in.
Oh, yeah. I expect his defense to improve a massive amount just from being under Thibodeau, just from working with these other guys on the team. And look, they're growing. Like you said, they got the pieces. They're all young. They're growing as a team. So as a team, they're going to get better and make each other better. And that's honestly what I'm most excited. I love this Timberwolves team. I just want to watch them. I just want to watch them play.
Can I ask you guys this? This is
Yeah.
a totally different question.
Okay, Ricky.
Wild card.
Just looking at the top 6 of guys that we have, the guys that are locks, at the end of the year, if we did these rankings at the end of the year, do you see Wiggins cracking maybe the top 5?
No, not at all. I think he will crack the top 6 only if Butler falls off. And if Butler can take a step back, I think that's the only way he gets in the top 6. I don't think he's beating Carmelo. I don't think he's beating Kawhi. I don't think he's beating Paul George. I don't think he's beating KD. I don't think he's beating LeBron. I think Wiggins needs to step it into the playoffs and then prove that, hey, I'm here. I can be a team leader. I can be the guy you can go to. I think that's going to be where Wiggins takes that jump to superstar level. I think he's right now at a rising superstar.
Absolutely.
He needs to hit that superstar level, and you're going to do that in the playoffs. You're going to do that in a time where you can be relied on. I think that's going to be the big part there. The guy that I do want to talk about, though, is Giannis, because we have him at 8. And Giannis, we saw what he can do as a point forward. Can he keep that up as the Bucks? He might be one of the players that people are saying in the comments that he's completely overrated because he doesn't have a shot.
Well, what's interesting is Dave had him ranked the highest out of us. You had him ranked the lowest. I was right in between you guys.
So satisfied with that, aren't you?
Dave had 7. I had 9. Ricky had 8 for the people who can't see our spreadsheet. But with Giannis, it's more of how is he going to fit into that point forward role? We saw a little bit of it. I think Jason Kidd said that Michael Carter-Williams is still going to be the point guard, but I don't think that's actually going to happen. I
believe Michael Carter-Williams was our worst rated point guard.
He was. But the thing with Giannis is I want to see him take that next step. You got team wingspan here. You got team length.
Nice.
Can they actually take it? And do you think Giannis will actually cement himself as a top 10 small forward? Because I think we're still dealing with potential here. I think with Giannis, it's still the potential, and we see how well he can do. Do you think he actually will back it up?
Honest answer, what Giannis did, not last year, but the year before, like his second year is what I expect out of Ben Simmons this year. Like 12, just shy like 7, and actually more assists. But it's just the fact that it's like we've seen him grow, and then that little preview we had of him at point forward. Whew, that was nice. That worked, and I credit due to Jason Kidd, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable saying that out loud. Like just wipe that. That just feels dirty. But no, it worked. And he's one of those guys he's got the length, but he's also got the handle because growing up he was always the best player, so he had the ball in his hands. So you have that comfort level. He can dish the ball. It really is going to depend on a lot of the other guys around him, though.
Honestly, the thing that I want to look at with Giannis is the thing that I look at him when I see him play point forward. He's a 6'11" Russ Westbrook.
6'11".
6'11". But anyways, he is
Sorry.
he is 10 inches taller than Russell Westbrook, or how many ever inches he's taller than Russell Westbrook. He just reminds me of a little bit of a slower Russ. I just want to see him take that next step because with Giannis, his play style, can he stay healthy, and then can he dish the ball out efficiently? Because those assist numbers aren't that great.
No, not yet, but they can be.
Yeah, he had a couple triple doubles. So when he did,
and I take it back. I mentioned his numbers, and I feel like I undercut Ben Simmons a little. Ben Simmons will have way more assists. He'll have like 8.
Well, in April when he kind of went to that point forward role, he had 7. His stat line was 29 and 7.
Yeah,
I mean that's ridiculous. I mean, do I think he can do that a full season? No, but do I think he could? Do I think
he's on a bad Bucks team?
Yeah, but do I think he could put up like 18, 9 and probably 6? I don't think he's going to average 7 assists a game. Do you think Giannis will actually average 7 assists a game?
I want to say yes, but I can't. I'm sorry.
That April was ridiculous.
It was. It was a great month.
52% from the field. He shot 45% from three. He didn't take that many, but still, 45% is a great percentage there. 76 from free throw line. You want to see that step up a little bit. But then again, 9 rebounds, 7 assists,
Honest
2
answer,
points,
I
or
think
20 points.
that Dellavedova is probably going to become the starting point guard of this team very quickly.
But,
Again, after
but he
what
might
we
be that
saw.
shooting guy for him. I think he'll be, because Carter Williams can't shoot. Delly can.
Right. That's the thing but Delly also proved at the Olympics he's got all-around game. Yeah, give him some credit. He played great, and I think that's going to kind of take in Carter Williams. You'll see as a fill or a 6-man, and I think Giannis will run. He'll still be point forward for part of the sets, but I think they're going to share time. So I think he's probably going to sit at 6 assists tops. Like I don't see him going full-blown like amazing. Like no.
You kind of alluded to it. Do you think he, kind of disappoints because the Bucks team is bad, or do you think he would disappoint just because there was so much hype?
I just think it's the whole team. Like, and the best thing can't forget about Dellavedova's defense, Dave, because he's all over the balls, all the balls out there with his hands. But
man is vicious, but that was clean.
With it's going to be basically just an overall team where it's like Giannis is at the end of the year going to be. Oh, yeah, he's the best player on that team, but the Bucks team is kind of like, that's not really a good team.
See, but we had Khris Middleton pretty high. Khris Middleton's a good shooter. With Jabari Parker, we're waiting for this kid to take it. He was taken so high. You want to see this kid.
Injury, though.
He did have an injury, but still, I mean, it's a guy who
25 games his first year, 76 his second.
Yeah, I mean, he's a power forward who's great driving to the basket, but that's the only thing he can do. He can't play defense. He can't shoot.
And his free throw percentage isn't even that high. 76% last year. Come on,
because he can't shoot.
You got to be shooting upper 80s minimum.
See, the thing is, you want to see this team take steps.
No, but when you make your money at the line, like you say, he's a drive. Like that's his game plan. Is
unless you're a
take
center.
the ball to the hoop.
Unless you're like a
exactly.
Well, then you really
he's
should
not a
because
center.
there's no excuse
He's
to
not a
shoot under
center.
80%.
He's a 6'9" power forward who's skinny. Well, not skinny, but he's not a he's a built guy.
He's built like a brick shit house.
Yeah, he's a buff dude. He's not a fat kid. He's not like a well.
No,
Andre
that's what I'm
Drummond's not fat. Anyways,
saying I can't shoot free throw, Sean. Is
No,
that
you
what you're
can't.
trying
Fat
to
guys
say?
can't shoot.
I can shoot pretty well, man. You'd be surprised.
Anyways, with Giannis, I think I agree with at least you, Ricky. I know you were kind of saying it was more wrong pieces, but you're also saying it was the team. I think it's going to be more of the team if Giannis cannot take that step, and if they do go away from the point forward idea.
Let me put it this way: you look at the top 6 players: LeBron, KD, Paul George, Kawhi, Butler, and Melo.
In that order,
the only single player on that top 6 that for his whole career hasn't had, like, he's had to be the guy on top of that team and hasn't had the right pieces to get him for Melo.
Comparing him
though,
to LeBron right
wait,
now?
wait, no.
Melo? Oh.
Yeah, for Melo, it's one of those things where we're talking about him with he hasn't had the right pieces to get to a championship. With Giannis, it could be similar to that, where it's like, yeah, he could be one of these better small forwards, but he has that team just hasn't had the right pieces around him, kind of a thing.
Real quick before we get into that Carmelo, Butler, Kawhi talk, Nuggets fan will be pissed off if we don't mention Danilo Gallinari because their team doesn't get mentioned enough. Danilo Gallinari, he's that guy who is he's a guy who it fits a specific role, but he's really good at that role. He's a good scorer. So
he stepped up last year too,
and we might see him fall. We might see him fall a little bit because Jokic will grow and Mudia will grow. So I mean that's the thing.
In my rankings, him and Tobias were the ones where who do I put above who? It was I had
Gallinari because he did
top,
it more.
Then I had Tobias underneath, but that was one where I'm like, who do I put above who? Because I believe Tobias had more points than Gallinari.
Nope, Gallinari had like 18, so you're wrong there. But no, well, with Gallinari,
I was just saying I believe I didn't have him up in front of me.
You're wrong. Well, Gallinari, I think we might see a dip, and he might be going down to Tobias level because everyone around him is growing.
Especially
you got Jamal Murray,
Gary Harris.
There's a lot of more shooters coming into that team.